Hello there everyone, welcome back to a brand new video. Today I'm going to talk about Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. This film I watched recently and this is a very interesting film. So let's talk about it. Alright, this is the latest addition to the beloved Ghostbusters franchise. Plunges its characters into a chilling adventure. Ooh. Anyway, the story revolves around a new icy menace that threatens the world, compelling the Ghostbusters team to face supernatural challenges in an entirely new and frozen dimension. While specific plot details might still be on the wraps, it promises the classic blend of humor, paranormal action, and heartfelt moments. Obviously, this film released back in, I think it is 23, like in 2023 or 2024 or something like that. But I finished it at home, obviously, which is really interesting. I suppose the film is about the Ghostbusters, obviously the new Ghostbusters from the Ghostbusters Afterlife film, and obviously now Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is here, and I've got to say I was really excited for it because I was like, oh damn, a new villain, a new ice villain, dude. I was not, you know, not I guess I would say disappointed in a way. I was not disappointed, but I still think some things were very much missing. I think, the themes in this film explore teamwork, resilience in the face of overwhelming odds, and the importance of legacy, a hallmark of the franchise. There's likely a focus on the intersection of the past and present, giving the franchise penchant for connection new generations to the original Ghostbusters team, which is really interesting. Yeah, I always thought that, new Ghostbusters, should just be the new Ghostbusters. And obviously, people want the old Ghostbusters to be back. But the thing is, they're freaking old, man. I loved seeing Bill Murray because, Bill Murray is like the only character in this film who actually has his own style of acting. He's there just to do his own thing, which is really nice. He's so nonchalant, I guess. He acts with a nonchalance, and it's really cool to see. I really like that. Ray Stantz was, I guess, also a big part of the film, which is, I think it's, oh boy, I can't really remember his name, but the actor, he plays it all right. He's like the geek of the Ghostbusters. He knows everything about everything, and he's very interesting. And obviously we have Winston. He is obviously the colored Ghostbuster from the team, and to be honest, they both had a really big role in the film. Bill Murray a bit less, but those two really had a big part of the film. Like Winston has this new facility in a aquatic abandoned building, and it's very interesting to see the new Ghostbusters actually moving on. I would love to see a third film actually in the franchise where they actually explore this new facility, explore new ghosts, and just a new story, man. Because I thought this movie just could have been great without the old characters. Like, you already saw them in Ghostbusters Afterlife, and now they need to be back, I guess, to make sense. And this film was also not directed by, I think it was, oh boy, what's his name again? The original writer had a son, but that writer died. And now his son actually took over the Ghostbusters Afterlife film. I think it was Ivan Reitman. Yes, Ivan Reitman and his son actually have the directing skills to direct a Ghostbusters film, and now Ghostbusters Frozen Empire was not directed by them, which is really sad to see because the father actually died. So yeah, that's very interesting. Ivan Reitman actually died, and the son couldn't really direct the follow-up, the sequel, obviously Frozen Empire. So there we go. Anyway, characters. The movie introduces new faces alongside returning favorites. Carrie Coon and Finn Wolfhard reprise their roles from Ghostbusters Afterlife, continuing the Spengler family's story. Paul Rudd brings his comedic brilliance back to the mix. Ernie Hudson returns as Vincent Zeddemore, yes, there we go, carrying forward the legacy of the original team. There's speculation about surprises, perhaps more appearances by original cast members. Like I said, Bill Murray, but we also have, oh damn, the woman who sits at the bureau in the original film, she's also back. And yeah, really interesting cast actually. But, like I said, it should have just, be about the new Ghostbusters. I think if you're going to introduce the old Ghostbusters back, at some point they're going to die, man. And that's the harsh reality of like sequel to a really beloved film. You just need to move forward, and I think, you know, that's very, very interesting. To be honest, for the villain, there were new ghosts introduced. Like, I guess there was this ghost, the red light, you know, that flashes everywhere and to everything. I think it's Possessor, right? Possessor possesses a lot of things, and actually made sense to be introduced because he had a great moment to shine in the film too. We also had, I guess, Slimer was back, which is really nice. But Slimer was really just being there for some reason. You know, Finn Wolfhard's character had like a thing to do in the film, which is really weird. His job was to make sure that Slimer, you know, got out of the house, which is weird, I guess. It's a weird, you know, a side quest, I guess, but you know, it was nice to see Slimer, and you know, it shouldn't have really fitted in the film because I don't know. There we go. McKenna Grace had a lesbian storyline in this film, or I guess not really specifically lesbian. You know, it's just like, you know, the character meets a girl ghost and they befriend each other, but you know, there's nothing really more to that. They're just like, oh damn, you're a girl. Yeah, yeah, I'm a girl. I'm a ghost. Oh damn, that's very interesting. And then just talk about whatever. There we go. Are they? You know, is she lesbian? I'm not quite sure. I really couldn't tell. But people are leaning into the fact that she, you know, has some LGTB plus things with her going on, but I don't know. I don't care really, to be honest. Anyway, because actually that side quest or that side story actually also made sense for the last fight. Talking about the last fight, you know, I was really hyped to see a new ghost. I was like, damn, bro, a new ghost inspired by the 80s cartoon, Ghostbusters 80s cartoon in the 90s, whatever. So that's very, very interesting. Like, there was eyes and cold powers, I guess. And the monster really looked terrifying. You couldn't really see his eyes on the poster, or you know, just his shape. A very, very long guy with like horns on the back. Um, Dude, I really loved that. Seeing him, I was like, oh, come on. He's going to be appearing now. Okay, no, okay, no, maybe later. Okay, no, yeah, no, no. He did not actually appear, I think, into the final act, which is really unfortunate because, you know, they had this orb, you know, this orb of whatever, and he was inside of that orb. It was like a prison where he was imprisoned in, which is really interesting. But then they opened it up, obviously, and it came out. I guess this ghost came out, and the way they introduced him, he has like very long fingers and like very, you know, I would say he's almost like a corpse, right? You could see his skeletons almost from his stomach. Really interesting, and you know his stature was really terrifying too. I really liked that, but then you know, I guess it was, you know, a bit of a, you know, a fortunate ending for him. He appeared. He was ready to face Ghostbusters. He put his horns back in because they were separated. I guess it gave him much more powers. So he put them back into his head, which is really weird to say, but whatever. And then he faced the Ghostbusters in the you know, firefighter building that they're always in. Really interesting to see that. The building also had a big part in the film, which is very, very cool. And obviously they defeated him, and Kamin Nanjiani's character was like a fire god, I guess. He was a descendant from a person who had the fire abilities. Actually a firebender, I suppose, from Avatar. But you know, he had this knight armor, and he was ready also to defeat this guy. I guess that makes sense, right? Ghostbusters world is filled with fantasy elements, ghosts, and just possessed things. So I guess that would make sense. That made sense, I guess, I suppose. So there we go. But the villain was just, you know, defeated in a way. Just boom. Okay, defeated, guys. Let's go. Yeah. Dude, oh, that was so sad to see. Like, I really liked the ghost of this story, but he just had so little time, I guess. So there we go. Alright, connections to other films. As a sequel to Ghostbusters Afterlife, this movie builds on the events of its predecessors, tying into the emotional legacy of Egon Spengler. It also retrains the iconic elements, the proton packs, ghosts, humor, and camaraderie that made the franchise a cultural phenomenon. Expect nods to original films as well as expansions to the world introduced in Afterlife, which is really interesting. That's pretty much it. The only things I talked about, I wanted to talk about, and I just hope they're going to make a third, uh, you know, version of the film, like a third film into the Afterlife uh, franchise. That would be awesome to see. I just need to wait and see because I really love the Ghostbusters, and I actually really love the new team. Like Paul Rudd's character was nice, and obviously Finn Wolfhard's character wasn't really doing a lot, but McKenna Grace's character really did a lot, which was really interesting to see. But ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will check you later. Goodbye, everyone. Or should I say, I ain't afraid of no ghosts. No, just kidding. Bye bye, everyone.